Welcome to the Buddhistisches Tor Berlin podcast. Join us for live recordings from classes, insightful talks, and guided meditations.
Today, my little talk, let's see what kind of talk it'll be. I think it'll be more of a talkette, as my Trabandhu says, a small talk. Is called "What Do Buddhists Actually Do?" What do they actually, like, what are we doing? Is sort of the title of the talk. And I thought, well, the title basically is about, what do we behave, what do we call ethics in Buddhism, et cetera, as you'll see. So I'll talk a bit about what we mean by ethics in Buddhism. But for me personally, this question, what do they do? What is a Buddhist? That was sort of at the forefront of my mind when I came in contact with Buddhism myself, right? So I came in touch with Buddhism sort of 11 years ago. I was really interested in Buddhism at the time. I was 18, 19 years old myself. The only thing I knew about Buddhism was that, well, they sort of had temples and statues that looked nice. And I wanted to know more about it. But I didn't know what it meant to actually behave like a Buddhist. Like, what do they do? I knew that Christians sort of go to church every Sunday and pray. Well, they should. If they're a good Christian, they, I don't know, pray or do whatever. But whenever I looked up what Buddhists do, the only thing I could find was, sort of monks, living in monasteries maybe, or wandering from place to place. So I thought, okay, that's nice. Surely not everyone can do that. Surely not every Buddhist can live like that. Don't get me wrong, I really like the idea of becoming a monk. Doing nothing and getting paid for that was right up my alley. Later I found out they're not getting paid for that. They just it's actually quite hard to be a monk. But that was the sort of idea I had of being in a monastery. So I did want to become a monk for the longest time, until I realized it's actually quite a hard life. It's not that easy. But then the more sort of I got in touch with it, the more I got a sense of, okay, so the Buddhist life, the real Buddhist life, actually does contain a sort of a set of ways of living, a sort of a code of conduct, if you want to say. The more Buddhists I met, the more I noticed there was something about the way they try to behave, at least. Most of the time they did live up to that as well. They did actually behave in that way. And the more I studied Buddhism, the more, I realized that there was, behavior, how to live, is actually a fundamental core of Buddhism itself, right? How to live your life, how to behave, what you do is one of those core principles in Buddhism. Buddhism is very much concerned with how we live. And it's so important that it's actually 1/3 of the whole path, right? Maybe not literally 1/3, it's probably like 95% or something. But in terms of the path, we love to delineate the path of Buddhism in sort of 3 major steps. The very first one is ethics, is how to live, right? The Buddha has a lot to say about that subject. And I'll try to make that very concise today. And just for completion's sake, the second step is meditation. So that's what you've all done already. Great, tick that box. And then the third step is what we call wisdom. Right? I won't say much about that. It's just on the basis of, how we behave, how we live, how we deal with our mind. On that basis, we can then look for wisdom, for understanding, for truth, really. I'm very tempted to get into it, but I'm not going to say more about it, so I'll leave it there. But really, ethics, what we call ethics, or the way we translate that Buddhist term as ethics, that really is the bedrock foundation of all these other practices. Yeah. Sometimes I joke here and say, well, really, before anyone should start meditating, we would have to teach you ethics, those ethical principles, because at least in theory, this is what meditation is based upon. Yeah, is upon how you live your life, etc. So we, instead of offering meditation beginners classes, we should really, if we were traditional, offer ethics beginners classes. Nobody would come to that. That'd be the most boring class ever. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're really into that one. Doesn't sound so sexy, does it? Anyway, that's why I'm giving this talk, because I do think it is quite sexy. I'm going to try to convince you otherwise. You'll all want to have an ethics beginners class after this. Okay, again, as I said, the Buddha had a lot to say about this subject. Usually he would start telling people, if you do want to live the spiritual life, these are the things you really have to implement in your life. I mean, just 5 seconds ago, Laitratna was mentioning this sutta, this teaching. I'll just summarize it quickly, which is where, there's this young monk that a young attendant who was close to the Buddha, who was following the Buddha wherever the Buddha went as a sort of helper, really, who was really inspired and who said, okay, I really want to live the spiritual life. I want to fight the fight. I want to fight the spiritual fight or something. He's really he's probably very young, very idealistic. He's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I'm going to go off on my own. I'm going to leave you here, Buddha. You're enlightened. You don't need me. I'm just gonna leave. Yeah. There's this lovely mango grove in which I can sit and meditate. Perfect. Yeah. Our equivalent would be, I don't know, some island in Thailand, probably. I'm just going to go there. Just going to, it's perfect conditions for meditation. Not this really gloomy Berlin, unfriendly people. Let me go off. And the Buddha says, well, he sort of says, well, I sort of need help. I need a friend, actually. I need someone to be with me. But this young monk called Meghiya, he's convinced he's going to do it. He says to the Buddha, you've got everything. You're enlightened. Come on. You don't need anyone. Let me go. He then, this sort of goes back and forth a couple of times until the Buddha said, well, if you speak of fighting, what can I say? What can I say if you're talking about fighting the fight of the spiritual life? Huh? Slightly sort of teasing him, teasing the young monk. We've all been young once. We can understand what, how when you're really young, you think, I must save the world, I must do this thing. And then we realize, actually, the world's a bit more complex than that. So anyhow, he goes off. I didn't actually mean to say all that, but it's great, isn't it? So he goes off, Meghiya goes off, sits down to meditate, and it doesn't work. He's completely overwhelmed by distractions, completely overwhelmed by greed, hatred, delusion. He's completely overwhelmed by just his own mind not being ready for meditation, really. He thought he had all these external conditions, sun, cool breeze in the mango grove. I guess mango juice, maybe he wanted. No, probably they wouldn't have done that anyway. It's our exotic mind, isn't it? So he goes back to the Buddha and says, I thought that would work. I thought that would be the way to do it. This is what you say, isn't it? Go off in the jungle and face your mind. This is what you've been teaching us. And then the Buddha gives this long discourse and says, well, there's 5 things you need. 5 things. I think it's 5. 5 things that are needed for the how does he say, for the development, for the maturity of the mind, that lead to the maturity of the mind. That what he means by that is for the development of deepest mental states, for the development of wisdom, etc. And the first one is spiritual friendship. Yeah, the first one is spiritual friendship is, to be with others, be in a community with other people, be in sort of communion with others who are leading the same sort of life, leading the same, have the same values, encourage each other to lead that life. And there's others, but the other four, I won't name the other four because I can't remember them right now. But mainly the important thing is he says, for those who have spiritual friend, it can be expected, that the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, they sort of follow out of that. Yeah, they follow everything. It's as if he's saying the whole spiritual life follows out of spiritual friendship, right? Follows out of leading your life with other people who support you, who maybe even who encourage you, who support you, who maybe even challenge you, who really have a similar quest. He says that again and again. The whole spiritual life sort of follows out of that. And basically, what I want to say with that is that how we live our life, how we are with people, is of fundamental importance in Buddhism. Yeah. So what we then call ethics, or the ethical principles, segueing back to my topic of the talk, is really how do we treat others, right? How are we with people? Very often, I think we can confuse Buddhist practice or spiritual practice very much in the terms of me, I, how am I feeling right now? Am I slightly sort of uncomfortable? Should I maybe stay in bed the whole day? We're sort of overly precious of our own sort of mental states. I think we've increasingly become way too precious about the way we feel, the way we feel about ourselves, about others, and sort of blow that out of proportion, I think. What Buddhist ethics is trying to tell us is that, well, the fundamental principle is that we are not that disconnected from each other as we think. The fundamental principle of Buddhism is that, well, the way we sort of construct ourselves isn't quite so how we believe it to be. It isn't as sort of separate. So how we are with others is of fundamental importance. It will benefit others, and it will benefit ourselves if we treat others well. Yeah, that really is what Buddhist ethics is about. Is to treat yourself and others well. And well, I think. I mean, just to finish this off, but I think this tendency of being overly precious about yourself and slight inconveniences and slight sort of unpleasantness. I think it's generally good development. I think it comes out of past decades of where we discovered psychotherapy, really listening to ourselves, listening to the body, coming into sort of a union of mind and body again. I think generally it's a positive development, but there's the danger of then making that a sort of I-me project, where we are sort of trapped in, just the day-to-day ups and downs of life, really, and we can never look beyond our immediate experience and our immediate feeling. Whereas, again, Buddhism is trying to challenge that. It's trying to say, well, you are not just yourself. The world is more than just you, and in order to bring about, well, a decrease in suffering in the world and a decrease in greed, hatred, those forces that trap us within ourselves, well, we need to be much more outward looking. Yeah? So Buddhism doesn't actually start by just looking inward. As I said, meditation and looking inward comes a bit later. It starts by looking outward, interestingly. It starts by looking out for others. Sometimes in the Buddhist texts, Buddhism doesn't even start with ethics. It just starts by simple generosity. Sometimes there's some lists of the Buddhist path which add a sort of first, fourth stage before ethics, meditation, wisdom, which is just plain generosity. Just give. If you don't know what to do, just give. Like, that's the best start. If you do want to live the spiritual life, that really is the best thing you can do. Give something. Give money, give time, give your ear, your presence, help. where needed. It can be many things. So, really, I mean, if you read traditional teachers, they do emphasize that again and again. One of Sangharakshita's teachers, so Sangharakshita is the founder of our order and movement. He always taught he ran the school. This teacher of his, he was this Tibetan Lama. He ran the school, and the only thing he would teach his students was just to sort of share, was just to sort of give and share things among themselves. That was the first sort of lesson in Buddhism he would give them, is just to sort of share things among each other. I think it was him who, he would always teach his students to share the chocolate amongst each other. Like when someone would bring chocolate or some sort of sweet, just to share that, and his reason was, well, if you only have your chocolate, that's one person who's happy. The more you share and divide it, the more happiness is in the room, right? Very simple. Buddhism doesn't have to be very clever, right? It can be, but it starts by just very simple acts of kindness. So very simple things we can all do immediately, right? We can all give friendliness, we can all give time, we can all give something of value, something material if we can, just towards each other. I mean, our teacher, again, he said that the spiritual community, a community of practitioners, should be characterized by the constant exchange of gifts, right? By the constant exchange of gifts, the constant exchange of presence, whether material or immaterial. This really is what is the sign of a good, effective spiritual community. And I can say that this is, I do experience that a lot within our own movement, within our own community, a lot actually, that people are just very, very generous with their abilities to help. People come here to the class a bit earlier, help out, lay out mats, make tea. People help out in the office, people help out everywhere on retreats. This whole center is just based on people pouring in time and love and energy and passion into something like this. Yeah, again, very not what I wanted to say. There's a whole talk down here, but it's not coming out there.
It inspired you, didn't it?
Yeah. Good. So, but I think it's an important thing to sort of evoke that Buddhist ethics isn't so much to do with just a set of rules, or even, I texted that in the WhatsApp group, the code of conduct. Even that sounds a bit, I don't know, it's not quite the right word, really. It's very, very difficult to find the right word for what we mean by ethics. It's just that we've translated this Indian word Shila as ethics. Very, very tricky to get the right connotation across of what we mean by that, because, as I hope was clear, it really isn't so much to do about, just sort of do this or don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and do this. I learned a new word in preparation of this talk. So I was studying a few talks by, Sangharakshita, our teacher again, where he talks about ethics. And in one passage he says that you sometimes when you read translations of Buddhist texts, you can get the impression that the Buddha was some sort of killjoy. I didn't know this word before, but I think it's very literal, isn't it? Like someone who kills joy, I guess. It's a killjoy going around telling people, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. A few do's at the end, trying to make everyone have a miserable life. But he's then very clear saying, no, this is not what the Buddha was trying to do. He was not trying to say that. He really tried to lay out guiding principles that can guide and help us, right? So these, I will go through a list of those sort of ethical principles in a moment. But these are supposed to be guiding principles, leading us and helping us and encouraging us on the path to lead a more ethical life. They're not trying to make us miserable because we can't live up to them, right? I think it's to do with because they are, the way they're formulated can be quite negative. It's sort of, okay, I try not to do this, try not to do this, try not to do that, try to do this, try to do this. We come from a culture, I suppose, or some of us come from cultures that are very, very sort of law-driven, right? So we do read religious texts as texts of law usually, well, especially if we come from a Christian or even Judaic background. But even in modern times, I mean, this way of thinking of law has infiltrated, even if we don't come from a Christian background, our way of thinking. So we read these sorts of texts as though they're sort of really rules that are very black and white. A lot of people who hear that again and again when they want to, when they're thinking about becoming Buddhists, they want to go deeper maybe with us here in this community, they might think about taking that step of becoming Buddhists themselves. There's almost inevitably the question of like, what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? Am I still allowed to do X, Y, Z, right? It's always very tricky to sort of get around that subject because, well, you're sort of allowed to do whatever you want because the whole point of these ethical rules is that surely you would want to leave certain things behind. But I'm not going to make you not do things anymore. Like I'm not going to be the one saying you're not supposed to eat meat anymore. But ideally, they are expressions of your practice. So these ethical guidelines are expressions of our practice, our commitment, our understanding. The Buddha said that the way he presented those guidelines or these principles, he always presented them in the way of if someone was fully enlightened, the fully enlightened being would not do these things and would always do these things. So these are guidelines of, okay, so how would an enlightened being act? So this is all that he's trying to say. So they're sort of trying to evoke a sense of, okay, so this is how a perfect life could look like. Yeah, this is how a perfected life could look like. This is how an enlightened life could look like. And then we can look at our life and think, okay, great. I do a little bit of that, maybe not fully. What is my next step, right? So these ethical principles, they're always trying to make us think about our next step to get closer and closer to this ideal. So this just as a way of introduction to how these lists work, yeah, how these rules, as it were, work. That they're really trying to ask us, okay, so can we step by step deepen our ethical practice? And in the most basic formulation, there's 5 of those principles. Yeah, there's 5 of those principles. So I'm saying that because there's actually hundreds of versions of this list. There's also 8 principles, there's 10, there's 251, etc. So it's like there's all these different versions of it. But the best one, I think, is the list of 5 things, right? It's the list of 5 things. And all these 5 things come in a version of trying not to do something, and then in a version of trying to actually cultivate the positive counterpart. Okay, are you ready for ethics? So the first one, and the most important one, is not to harm other beings. Literally not to kill, but we sort of, I mean, we sort of think that harming by extension means that as well. So not harming other beings, not harming especially other people, but especially other beings. Sentient beings is usually the formulation, because I know plants are beings as well, but usually the sort of the tradition says, okay, let's make a stop at sentient beings. And as a counterpart, it has love, yeah, actions that are filled with love. Deeds of loving kindness is sometimes how we call it. So why is that bad? Why is harming others bad? I mean, it's a bit of a obvious thing, probably, an obvious way of looking at the world. But according to Buddhism, really, the problem with harming others is that inevitably injuring someone, whether physically or verbally or in other ways, we can't do that, or it can't be an action that doesn't come out of hatred or craving. So it's sort of, the Buddha is saying it's inconceivable that you could sort of harm someone without having a mental state that is filled with craving or hatred. It's sort of impossible to do that. So if we are practicing, if we're trying to let go of hatred, trying to let go of craving, that would express itself in harming beings less and less and less and less, right? And then there's, sometimes we get the question, people ask the question, isn't it conceivable that you have to sort of harm someone for the greater good of, political advancements or whatever? I would argue that as a Buddhist, that's a very, very difficult thing to do, actually, to pull off. There will always be a degree of delusion in there, because you don't know what the greater good really is. There will always be a degree of hatred, at least even to just one person. There will always be a craving for something more. I think it's a very, very tricky subject, but I would argue that this first principle of non-violence really is rooted in the complete letting go of hatred and craving, even to the most evil person in the world. Yeah, even they are deserving of love. Even they are a human being. From the Buddhist point of view, even they deserve our compassion, because the whole practice of love in Buddhism, what we've been trying to do in the meditations this morning, is unconditional loving kindness. It doesn't have a condition. We give it freely. This is what the Buddha is saying is what brings us closer and closer to enlightenment, to being really in touch with reality, as hard as that might be. The other problem is that if we do act with sort of mental states or hearts filled with hatred, even if we think it's a relatively small amount, the way hatred and negative emotions work is that if you give space to them, they will grow. Even though maybe that one act didn't have that much hatred in it, it will give rise to more hatred and more acts of hatred. One thing leads to the other, either within yourself or in other people. So this is really what the whole basis of Buddhist ethics is about. Is almost everything is sort of encapsulated in this first precept, is that let's just try to harm ourselves and others less and less and less. Yeah, let's really try to establish this principle. We call it non-violence, but really it's the positive principle of love and loving kindness which is behind it. As again Sangharakshita says, it doesn't, loving kindness, it's no good if we just sort of only sort of feel it and think, oh, how great everyone is. It also needs to be expressed, right? It needs to sort of be expressed. This is why friendship is so important. It needs to be expressed in a whole culture of generosity, of friendly words. Only then we can sort of go out of our way to sort of decrease harm in the world. That's quite heavy, isn't it? Well, it's about life, isn't it? It's about truth and all that. So this is the main ethical principle. Really, is to really think about: can I love more? Can I bring more and more love in the world? But like real, not just a sort of sentimental wooliness. Can I really connect with people as human beings. Really the principle behind that is trying to connect with the humanity in others, trying to see people as people, not as categories. It's one of my main sort of practices really, is I'm sometimes very humbled myself in realizing how much I see people in categories. Either are they of use to me, are they sort of fun to be around or a bit boring to me? Are they, do they help me grow, or do they sort of hinder my time right now? Are they in the way? Can I actually experience people, as a person, more and more and more? This is really what love means in Buddhism, is to extend that awareness of beings, as these complex, conscious things that have sort of come around and have been spat out by the universe here in this in Berlin Kreuzberg, of all places. But do you see what I mean? It's a sort of that really is at the heart of Buddhism. It's that development of Buddhist ethics. It's that development of more and more beneficial states of love, of loving kindness, which are then expressed in our actions, in our speech, in our thoughts. Which then leads to really the other four of those ethical guidelines. Yeah. So the first one, again, not harming but loving. The second one I've already discussed. Actually, it's being generous. Yeah, it's giving. And the negative formulation is to not take the non-given. So not stealing, but going even further than stealing. Also not just taking what hasn't been actively given to you. Again, which is, based in craving, has craving as a sort of is an expression of craving. Really encapsulate any kind of dishonesty as well. And to counteract that is to give more and more freely. Yeah, I've already talked enough about that. The third one is, and that's usually where people get very interested in it, is called trying to let go of sexual misconduct. And then obviously the question arises, what is sexual misconduct? And everyone's really interested in that usually. But you're pleased to hear that from a Buddhist point of view, sexual misconduct is the kind of conduct which harms others. Yeah, so like rape, or even cheating on others, etc. Any kind of sexual activity which involves harm in either the person itself that I'm having sex with, or a third person, which is harmed by me having sex with another person. And that's it. So it doesn't say anything about monogamy, it doesn't say anything about, homosexuality or any kind of sexual practice. Maybe the Buddha didn't know about those practices 2,500 years ago. If he could have seen Berghain, the list would be much longer. No, probably not. He would have been like, fine, whatever. I'm like really detached. He doesn't care. Sorry, where was I? Not harming. Yeah. But again, it's again that principle, right? Isn't it? And the positive counterpart of that is contentment, trying to be more and more content with what we have, right? Again, sexual conduct in general is very hard to do without craving. Craving, greed is sort of so linked with sex, isn't it? So the first step to sort of let go of that is actually to think, okay, can I sort of have a sex life without harming people all the time, or myself, right? So this is trying to nourish a sense of contentment with our lives, a sense of not having to use sex as a means to fulfill neurotic needs. Yeah. So neurotic means are the sort of the needs that we're trying to sort of fulfill these needs with sort of replacement things, right? We're using sex to actually get over our sense of loneliness, etc., etc. This is what neurotic need means. It's like we're trying to use something that it can't fulfill that need because there's something deeper there that needs to be looked at. And I mean, we all do it, especially in the sense of sex. I mean, from boredom to loneliness to some sort of trauma or something. There's all these sort of muddy, messy things going on, isn't there? But again, through practice, we can try to cultivate contentment with whatever we have at the moment. Sangakshta says you could understand it as, if you're in a relationship, trying to be content with that, trying to just be content with the form of relationship you have, unless you really should get out of that, and it's a toxic one, then do get out of it. But if it's a generally good one, could always be better, but sort of try to be content in it. If you're single, try to be content with that, etc., etc. So just trying to encourage this sort of sense of, just sort of enjoying things for what they are rather than for what we make them to be. Yeah, something I'm working on quite strongly. Okay, and then the fourth one being trying to let go of untruthful speech, so not speaking the truth. The positive counterpart being true speech, trying to say things that are correct. Again, what that means is trying to let go of maybe manipulating people with our speech, usually behind falsifying speech. What's behind it is also a sense of craving, maybe, sense of wanting things a way that they're not, trying to sort of slightly steer narratives. A lot of the times we can actually be untrue to ourselves. A lot of the time we spend thinking, sort of trying to sort of think the world into a shape which fits us, but it isn't actually how the world really is. I think that is sort of part of untruthful speech as well. We can sort of seduce ourselves into seeing the world a certain way, seeing other people a certain way, even though we haven't sort of verbally expressed it. But through our thoughts, we're speaking to ourselves quite often very untruthfully, and misjudging ourselves, misjudging other people, misjudging situations. So truthful speech in that way actually asks us to sort of come back again and again and again to our direct experience and to the way things actually are, and trying to sort of, it's not just about mere facts, it's about, okay, so what's really going on here? What's really happening here? And then the fifth one is, the fifth ethical principle is letting go or trying to abstain from taking intoxicants or sort of substances which cloud the mind. Yeah, so in drugs and all that. Sorry. Again, we're in Berlin-Kreuzberg. Not very sexy, is it? Really what it means is that I think it'll become clearer if I tell you the positive counterpart. The positive counterpart is mindfulness. Really what, as a Buddhist, we will try to do is establish more and more mindfulness of ourselves, of our movements, of our speech, of other people, our environment, of truth even. So everything that gets in the way of being mindful is really not that good for our Buddhist practice. So yes, sort of alcohol is part of that. Just whatever. These days, I would almost include social media in it as well. I would actually include, binge watching as well. It's not a substance, but it definitely clouds your mind. Try to meditate after watching 3 hours of Netflix. Some people can do it, but I can't. But again, do you see the principle? It's not sort of trying to say, okay, live a boring life. It's like through the practice of that, what the fifth principle, the fifth ethical precept is trying to tell us is that, okay, let's try to actually live more. Let's have more of life through mindfulness. Let's experience more. Let's experience more deeply, more refinedly. Let's live a life which is more alive, more alive to ourselves, to our emotions, to other people. Again, the Buddha isn't trying to be a killjoy, apparently, although you might be feeling that right now. But really, it's asking us, okay, can we, actually be more aware of ourselves, of other people, of life itself, really, and certain substances just sort of get in the way of that, or certain habits of ourselves will get in the way. Okay, so that's your list. Not harming, but loving. Not taking the non-given, but being generous. Trying to abstain from sexual misconduct, but instead cultivating contentment. Trying to abstain from untruthful speech, and instead trying to cultivate truthful speech. And then lastly, trying to abstain from taking intoxicants, but instead developing mindfulness. You could also say aliveness. So these are the 5 precepts. These are really the basic principles of life as a Buddhist. These are the main principles in which we will, if we practice Buddhism, this is how our life will just quite naturally, quite organically sort of try to express itself more and more and more. The more I practice, the stronger I feel when I don't live up to these precepts. Again, it's not so much that I sort of sit down and think, okay, how can I sort of fulfill all these precepts more and more and more? What I'm trying to do is, through my practice, try to express them more and more vividly in my life. There are ways in which we can really get more out of life, because we will be more in touch with ourselves and other people through them. They are sort of principles which also give rise to very, very positive mental states, but also very, very positive communities, right? A community, to come back to that initial theme of friendship and community, is one that is sort of where these 5 principles just sort of are part of the air, is sort of part of the water that we swim in, ideally. They are what constitute community. They are sort of principles that bring people together. And if they are alive in a community, then you can forget about them. That's the importance of friendship and community, is that you can actually forget about rules and lists, because this is what the Buddha was trying to say in that sutta. It can then be expected that you'll just pick up on it. We're quite social people. We're always sort of picking up from other people's practices and the way they behave. Being with others who are fairly ethical, we will just quite naturally be ethical ourselves. It'll feel quite pleasant to do so. I have like 500 points down here, but I will, I think, leave it here. Thank you very much. So it was not a talkette. It was, in fact, a talk. But we have a couple of minutes, just if there's like 1 or 2 questions, or maybe just comments, if you like, if you want. Oh, yes.
Well, just speaking for myself and from a couple of years now of practice, it's not about being good.
Yeah.
Because if someone gives me a rule, I tend to rebel. Like, don't tell me what to do. And for a while, that's how I perceived them. I took them literally. Like, literalism is dangerous.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I need to, and then on the other hand, I need to be good because of this strong, very subconscious conditioning. I need to be good. I need to follow these rules. So it was quite imbalanced somehow.
Yeah.
I really liked what you said at the end about how we're swimming in this air, or it's the water that we swim in, and we just pick up on good behaviour.
It's about encouragement, isn't it, rather than penance or
judging yourself
or judgment.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do that, but like you could become stiff,
Oh yeah,
over
yeah.
serious.
I mean, one of the main things we many of us probably work with is these sort of leftover feelings of irrational guilt, of feeling that we sort of are inherently bad because we are not behaving the way we're supposed to behave. It's a very, very foreign concept to Buddhism. It's actually a negative mental state to feel guilty in that way. Really what ethics is trying to do in Buddhism, or what the Buddha is trying to do, is that we love ourselves more and other people, and because we love beings and ourselves, well, we would take care of them and ourselves. Yeah, that's really at the heart of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just imagining Ryanair, but they said, we've decided not to train our pilots anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a much more experimental method, you know.
Yeah.
It's like people are dying all
Yeah.
over the world, you know. But you do need training, don't you?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do need training,
Yeah.
principles and guidelines.
Yeah.
I remember at college in the laundrette, a big sign said, if all else fails, read the instructions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something to fall back on, isn't it? Yeah. Great. Well, we're out of time now. So thanks very much for listening and coming as well.